Well, some new reaction to the Supreme Court ruling on Arizona's immigration law. The High Court striking down 3 key provisions of that law yesterday, but upholding the section that allows police to check the immigration status of anyone stopped for another violation. The justice is also leaving the door open to further challenges once that law is implemented. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer says the only real solution here is a fresh start.
The bottom line is what we need is a new administration, somebody that will take the responsibility, uphold the rule of law, and secure our borders so we can deal with all the issues pertaining to illegal immigration. And we have that opportunity in November.
That's the opinion of the Republican governor. What does this mean for the Republican Party in November? Joining me now, Arizona Senator Jon Kyl, live on Capitol Hill. Senator, nice to have you back with us.
Thank you, Jenna.
Senator, in your long career as a lawmaker, you've had to navigate this issue of immigration policy as a Republican in a state where the Hispanic vote is very important. So what does this Supreme Court ruling mean for the Republican Party come November, and how should the party navigate this issue of immigration?
First of all, let me be clear that the key provision of the law was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, and the response of the Obama administration has been not very good, let's put it that way. In effect saying, well, maybe the Supreme Court upheld it, but we're not going to work with the state of Arizona to implement it. And that's a shame, because local law enforcement can be a big help to the federal government in enforcing our immigration laws. Second, to your question, there's no question that Arizona will vote for Mitt Romney in the presidential election this fall. It's not in jeopardy of going to Obama. And third, I think Governor Brewer was exactly right. The remedy here for the president's non-enforcement of the law and really thumbing his nose at Arizona in its efforts to try to see that the law is enforced, the real remedy is to elect a different president, one who will be committed to enforcing the law. And that's probably the only real hope that we have, at least in the short period of time that we have before the next election.
Senator Kyl, let me go back to that first point that you made, the key provision part of the law where the police can check immigration status. We mentioned that is being upheld at this time, but there seems to be this question, according to reports, that it will not be cooperated with the federal government, with the Department of Homeland Security. What can you tell us about what you're hearing and what's your understanding of the situation?
There's a new email from the Immigration and Customs Enforcement part of the Department of Homeland Security, and it leaves some questions, but what they've said in effect is that with states like Arizona, and Arizona specifically, they're not going to cooperate, meaning that Arizona will no longer be able to participate in a program known by the Code Section 287G, which has been very, very helpful in enabling Arizona people to understand whether someone who's been apprehended is an illegal immigrant or not. There's a database, I think it's in New Hampshire or Vermont, which you can call up and say, we have this person named so-and-so, would you check his status for us? And then they get back to you. It's unclear now whether the ICE will even return the calls from Arizona, whether they'll even provide that information. In any event, the database is no longer available for Arizonans to automatically make their inquiries. So not only will ICE refuse to take anybody into custody, if, say, the Phoenix Police Department calls and says, we have these people, would you take them? They appear to be illegal immigrants. They're not going to take them into custody. They won't even help Arizona determine the immigration status of people.
So we'll see how that situation plays out on the ground. Again, they have to see how the police are going to be implementing this law on a local level, and that's something we're going to be talking a lot more about throughout the show today, Senator.
Yeah, they don't have to wait to see. They can help Arizona enforce the law now. But yes, as to how the law is implemented, right. Obviously any law can be implemented in an improper way. I don't think this one will be.
Senator, real quick here, I know you're going to retire in January, and after your years of service, in an attempt as well for comprehensive immigration reform, why can't we reform the system? And what do you really see as the problem here? If you can take a step back, even out of some of the partisanship, what do you think's the issue?
Well, there are many issues. We tried this in 2007. I worked with Senator Kennedy, for example, and Senator McCain and others, and we had a bill that we thought could pass. The labor unions were the primary opponents, especially of the guest worker provisions, and people like Senator Barack Obama voted for the amendments, which were deemed to be poison pill amendments that would kill the legislation. And eventually the Majority Leader, Harry Reid, pulled it from the agenda because it didn't have the support to pass. You can't remove politics from it. That's unfortunate, and that's the reality. It's why it's so hard to get comprehensive immigration reform passed. In the meantime, there are things we could do. For example, we could pass an E-Verify program that makes sure that employers know that they're employing American citizens. We can provide for agricultural workers to be able to stay here and work, even if they came here illegally. We can certainly do something like the ACHIEVE Act that Senator Hutchison and Rubio and I have been working on that would actually provide these students that you've heard so much about a permanent status, a permanent legal status, not citizenship, but they would have to be just like anybody else in terms of applying for citizenship, but they would know that it's not just the whim of the administration in enforcing the laws that will enable them to stay here or not. And of course there are other things we can do to ensure that the border is secure. So there's much more that can be done and should be done.
We'll see if there's any of what you just mentioned makes it to the floor and comes up to a vote. And Senator Kyl, I know we're going to be talking later this week.